This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace.
Last year, I went through many different life changes. I needed to take a pause and examine how I was feeling in the inside to better show up for the ones who need me to be my best version of myself.
When you're navigating life's changes, Talkspace can help. Talkspace is the #1 rated online therapy, bringing you professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatry providers that you can access anytime, anywhere.
Living a busy life, navigating a long-distance relationship, becoming a first-step father, Talkspace made all of those journeys possible. I could speak with my therapist in the office. I could speak with my therapist in the comfort of my home. I was never alone.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance, no problem. Now get $80 off your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Get your news in an easier, more efficient way this new year. The Newsworthy breaks down the day's top stories in less than 15 minutes and gives you some lighter conversation starters. It's quick, friendly, and informative. Search The Newsworthy wherever you're listening now and follow or subscribe to The Newsworthy today.
Welcome to Still a Part of Us again. We have just had a wonderful conversation with Melanie, and I would encourage you to listen to it because it is full of I basically was with my mouth hanging open the entire time because that story of Bennett is just so there's a lot going on there and it felt kind of crazy. So Melanie, thank you so much for coming back on and chatting with us today. Okay, as a way to give everybody a little bit of what happened to Bennett, can you tell us in a nutshell when he was born at the time of this recording and then what happened to him?
Yeah, so Bennett was born at 37 weeks and 3 days in a small military base in Japan and passed away from a heart condition called left ventricular non-compaction cardiomyopathy that we did not know that he had until his autopsy came back, telling us that that is what had happened to him.
Yeah. And that was in 2010, and so it has been 15 years. Oh, yeah, almost 15 years, huh? That since he passed away. So Melanie, you were so young and this was just so unexpected. I kind of want to hear what the grief process has looked like for you. And I especially appreciate the fact that it's been 15 years because we don't get that many people that have been out this long. And so I'm curious how that's looked and how it's changed over the years.
I mean, obviously in the beginning it was unbearable. I think, like many people who listen to this, my initial reactions and my initial thoughts were along the lines of, I don't want to be here. I spent a lot of nights going for drives and wanting to drive my car into walls and not wanting to be here. I didn't see a purpose or any kind of understanding of why this had happened and what it meant for my life and why me and what was I going to do? Like, what was this meaning? What was this going to mean for my life?
Right.
And I had nothing. All I had at that point in my life was being a mom. You know, I was a military wife in a remote military base. And the only thing I had going for me was being a mom. And when that was taken away from me, I felt like I had no purpose. I remember this just this feeling of like I didn't have a desire of being someone's wife, and just being that as a fulfillment. Like that wasn't fulfilling to me at all. And so initially, I spent a lot of time being really sad and wanting to find other people who knew how I felt. So I turned to a lot of online grief support groups. I Googled anything and everything that I possibly could. I initially came across Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep and saw the work that they did and found myself angry at the fact that like there was this organization that did this amazing work. And there was a photographer who was stationed on the base that
Oh.
I was at, who she was affiliated with them as a retouch artist, not as a photographer.
Oh, I see.
But I found myself just like frustrated that like people out there knew about it, but nobody had talked to me about it. Or like I didn't have the foresight to think about it. And so I initially looked into like maybe I should volunteer with them. But I was living on a small military base. There wasn't really a need for that. So instead, I started reaching out to other moms who were on the base and tried to create like a grief and loss support group because there
Oh,
just was nothing.
yeah.
So I ended up creating like a really small grief and loss group, and it was filled with moms who had had everything from early miscarriage up to a full-term loss.
Yeah.
And I made some really good friends
Hmm.
through that. And it was healing for me to just be able to like connect with them.
Yeah.
They were also just at really different stages in their grief, and so I don't think it was as successful as I had hoped for it to be.
Yeah.
But the online communities were just life-changing for me, being able to connect with people and
All over
just
yeah.
all over the world,
All over the
right?
world.
Like, I mean, I still have people to this day that I keep in touch with who I met at that
Yeah.
initial time in my grief. And then when I went through my divorce and moved to Seattle, I had been here for a couple of months and had started dating, and I had a boyfriend whose mom, she was like, "Have you looked at any like grief and loss groups here in Seattle?" And I was like, "No, I never even like
Hmm.
thought about it." At this point, it had been about a year and a half since he had died, and
Yeah.
like life was different. I was carrying my grief in a different way. I also felt like I had to compartmentalize it a lot because I was, going through such a significant life change, and I essentially had left and wanted to start my life over because I wanted my life to have purpose and I wanted
Yeah.
to just do something. And so she helped me find this grief and loss support group, and she actually took me to my first group.
Really.
Yeah, because I didn't have a car. I'd moved here, and I
Yeah.
had two suitcases.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it. Yep.
And that's it. And so she took me to my first couple of groups, and she sat with me, and I met this group of people who changed my life forever.
Yeah.
I to this day, they are like aunties to my son, and their kids are, I'm auntie to them, and
Hmm.
we have what is known as the Dead Baby Club.
Yep.
They are they are my people who
Yep.
embrace the dark humor.
Yep.
And I met them at points in their grief where they were, really fresh in their grief.
Yeah.
And I was, a little bit further out in their grief, but just being with them and being in that space with them really allowed me to kind of go into a space where I had unprocessed grief.
Yes.
They're at least, most of them are at least 5+ years older than me. And so it gave me this space that was outside of my normal life. I'm 21 at the time,
Hmm.
living the life of a 21-year-old who's single in this city and has friends who are 21, right? But I got to go have this space with them and spend time with them that allowed me to process what had happened to me. Because yeah, you couldn't, it's like, can't really do that in this normal part of your life.
No.
People
Yeah.
people don't understand
They
that.
don't understand, and they always want to kind of hurry up, like in like,
Yes.
aren't you fine yet? Aren't you okay? And
Yes, or
should
it's
you be
like,
done? Yeah.
yeah, or it's this like weird dark thing that you have, and it's like it's just a part of your story, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not a defining thing of like who you are as a
Exactly.
person. It's a part of your story and your journey and who you've helped shape who you are as a person, but it's not like I'm not
that's not your full identity. Because
Right.
yep. Unfortunately, that kind of happens when you're.
Yes, yeah, yeah, and for me, it happened to me very young, and so I've had to like carry that for a lot longer,
Yeah.
for a lot longer part of my life, and so yeah, yeah, it's kind of ebbed and flowed, and when I met my husband, when I was in 2014,
Okay.
um, meeting him really put me into a really weird space in my grief, which was
Really?
really unexpected. Yeah, the first few months that we were together, it was like put me back into a really dark place in my grief, and
Huh.
I didn't expect that
Yeah.
like at all. And so, yeah, threw him a curveball pretty quickly, pretty quickly, and he didn't have a lot of experience with grief in general. He had only lost his grandparents. But yeah, I definitely, yeah, I don't know, gave him like a better understanding of like who I was as a person,
Right.
because he's just over 4 years older than I am, and so yeah, I think he was like, wow, she's pretty mature for her age.
That like she's experienced some things.
I've experienced a lot of life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting that it just kind of brought it up again. That's interesting. Maybe you were thinking you were getting serious and that brought up a whole new like bringing up
Yeah,
like a potential family, that type of thing. That
yeah,
yeah, I can see how that could open fresh wounds again and anyway.
yeah.
Um and so then you thought about doing Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep. So I just let's really quickly recap that organization, the organization that you work for now, what you guys offer and what is why you guys are so awesome. I'm gonna I'll toot that horn for you.
Yeah, so Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep. This is actually the 20th year since the organization was founded. The mission is to provide remembrance photography to families experiencing the loss of a baby. So volunteers go into the hospital and take photos for families, and then we have a team of digital retouch artists who retouch the images that photographers take, and oftentimes photographers will retouch their own images
Hmm.
as
Hmm.
well. And like I said, I found them through a Google search, fresh, literally days after my son had died, and was just like, wow, this is like the most profound thing. Because in the first part of our podcast interview, I spoke about how
You.
weird it was to hold your dead baby. And then, I get home from the hospital and I see this organization who's like normalizing this
Yeah.
and just being
Yeah.
like, this is an okay thing to do, because I remember just feeling like all these people are looking at me holding my dead child, and just this feels weird. This feels wrong. I mean, it's wrong for me to have a dead child, right? I'm
Yes.
20 years
That's
old.
the
This is
thing.
not
Yep.
normal
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
general. So, I had initially looked into it, and then I didn't feel like I was qualified, and I didn't feel like I was needed at that point. And I was not in the headspace to do that type of
Hmm.
work anyways. And so I didn't really think about it again. I moved to Seattle, and it wasn't until 2000, it must have been, it was 2018. I was pregnant with my rainbow baby,
Hmm.
and yeah, it would have been January of 2018. I had a mom reach out to me in a local Facebook group, and she's like, "Hey, I'm practicing photography. It was in a pregnancy after loss group. Would you be interested in some maternity photos?" And I did not feel like super great at that point.
Oh, yeah.
Um, Pregnancy after loss is just,
Woo! Different
yeah.
story, everybody. It is rough.
It
It
is
is.
rough. It is rough. And I ended up like going off work at like 34 weeks anyways.
Yeah.
So I didn't end up, I coordinated with her and was like, yeah, totally. And she was like, I'm trying to build my photography skills so I can be a Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep photographer. And I was like, what? You do that? And she's like, yeah, I actually work for the organization, but I want to be a volunteer. I got photos by them. It changed my life. And I was like, I want to stay connected to you, but like, I don't have the bandwidth to do this right now.
Yeah.
My son is due in March. Let's connect afterwards. So my rainbow, Lachlan, he ended up being born at the end of February that year. And so I reached out to Allie shortly after he was born, and I was like, hey, he's here. I had planned to take a year off of work, but I wanted to do something. I wanted to like keep my mind occupied.
Yeah.
And I was like, what could I do that's not a photographer? Like I don't think I'm ready. I don't think I'm good enough to be a photographer.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, you could help dispatch calls. So when the hospital calls, you could like answer the calls and then find a photographer to go out.
Oh, okay.
And take the session. You could also assist on sessions. So you could go out with a photographer, then you could get some hands-on experience.
Gotcha.
And I was like, oh yeah, I could do either of those things. The first session I had assisted with Allie, and I was about 6 weeks postpartum.
Oh.
Worst idea
I know. I was like,
had.
Oh, yeah.
Worst idea. I had very extreme postpartum anxiety with Lachlan. So I did that, and then I don't think I slept for a week. Like,
yeah,
I already wasn't sleeping anyways.
And add that on top of it. Oh,
add that
man.
on top of it. Yeah, and I was like, oh, this is the worst thing I've ever done. I should not have done this. So I stuck to dispatching phone calls, and I got a lot of fulfillment out of that because I felt like I was like a superhero, like, oh, I'm going to find the photographer and, I'm going to connect the pieces. I'm going to make this happen. And I ended up like doing that and then being the area coordinator for our team. So that's like this like go-to person who manages the team and keeps all the volunteers connected and onboards new volunteers. And again, I was like, this will be great. I can put on my resume. I won't have any gaps in my resume.
Yeah.
Like this matters, right? Like I birthed a child.
Yeah. Oh, America and our funny ways of,
right. And then I was getting close to the year mark of me having to go back to work. And, I tell my husband, I was like, I'm not going back. And he was like, all right, just like if you can take an extra 6 months. So I applied for another 6 months off. And shortly after that, Allie reaches out to me and is like, hey, there's a part-time work from home job recruiting volunteers. If you'd be interested, you should apply. It's, 25 hours a week.
Oh,
and I was like, heck yeah, I could do that.
Yes. Sign me up.
So I applied and interviewed and I got offered that job. And I've been an employee now for 6 years, which is absolutely crazy to think about. But in November of 2019, so for Bennett's 9th birthday, I was determined. I was like, this is the year I want to add a photographer role to my repertoire, right? Like this, because that was what I wanted to do. Like I remember that feeling of finding that on the website and just being like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so I had, in 2019, I had gone back out and started assisting photographers on their sessions a lot more.
And was that okay? Like
that was, yeah,
along?
I think once Lachlan hit like 9 months,
okay,
I started feeling a lot better. I'm like, the risk of SIDS decreasing, I knew all the stats and
this is what you do as a mom of loss.
Yeah. And then after a year, I felt even more, confident and, yeah. And so I applied in 2019. I was like, I'm going to do it for his 9th birthday. I did it. I got approved as a photographer and I was really excited. And then I waited and I was like, oh, I didn't get a call until January of 2020.
Okay.
Oh no, sorry. It was February of 2020. I took my first call and then obviously March happens, March of 2020 happens, and everything is, on
Shut down.
standstill.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then in May of 2020, a lot of hospitals ended up making an exemption for us.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, because nobody could go in. That was the thing that was so
Yeah.
frustrating. So
Yeah.
family members couldn't go in and meet.
No.
Oh, yes. That's
Yeah.
awesome that they let you
So
guys in.
I ended up it ended up like the timing couldn't have been better, right? Of like when
Yeah.
I decided to finally like make that jump, and I ended up spending that first year as a volunteer in like the most sacred spaces ever. Like
Yeah.
sure I was like in full PPE
Yeah.
walking into these hospital rooms, but I was often the only person ever meeting some of the babies that I got to meet. And yeah, so now Monday of this week, I just photographed my 91st baby since then,
Oh,
which is,
wow.
yeah, which is incredible. Just I was actually telling that family that like it's so I was explaining like that I do this because and I don't always share with families like the why I do this. Like I'm really good at reading the room, and sometimes I can tell if it will bring comfort to the family to know like that I'm another lost mom and I'm not just some weirdo who
Yeah.
wants to be in their
Yes.
space.
Yes.
um and so I was kind of explaining to them like why I do this, and it was towards the end of our time together, and I was like, I got to show you like your baby's toes and how long they are, and like their nose, and all those different features that I pointed out, and they're like, oh yeah, you did do that, and I was like, that's because nobody did that for me, and so I get to make that difference for families, and I get to share. I get to create memories in that moment, those only moments that they have with
Yeah.
them, which is just like such a gift.
It is.
I thought for so long that like Bennett's life didn't have a purpose. And, I think that a lot of times like we have to make a purpose out
Yeah.
of those things that happen to us. And I'm not saying that everybody can go out and do this, right? It's hard work, and you're putting yourself into a really challenging space and a really
Yes.
sacred
Yes.
space. But I leave every time with so much gratitude that like I feel like he gave me that gift to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. I treasure my pictures. I did not have it through Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep. A friend just came in and did that, but
Aw.
so many parents have benefited from all the volunteers and from your organization. So I just that's what that's the reason why I was like, yes, please come on, please come and talk. And because those are really it, it's nice to be able to interface with somebody that understands that this is sacred, and there's a lot of trauma associated with it, and
Mhm.
so how to be able to navigate that. I am curious then, it sounds like you would take plenty of volunteers throughout. There's photographers and retouch artists everywhere, it sounds like, in the United States.
Yeah, US, Canada. Digital retouch artist is a remote role.
Mm-hmm.
So anywhere across the world, like people who are skilled at Photoshop. So the retouch artist role is so important because
Yes.
not only do we retouch images that like our photographers take, but like you had a friend who took photos for you. We oftentimes have families who are in that situation that still want photos retouched.
Oh, yes.
And so we welcome that service, and we provide that service to anybody.
That's
So if you
great.
have your images and you would like to have them retouched, we never change physical features of the baby. We just remove signs of demise
Yeah.
that wouldn't naturally be there, if baby was born alive, and just help give that peaceful image, because this experience has a lot of trauma,
Hmm.
right? And especially with stillbirth, if baby's been gone for a few days, we want to help, give a healing image and take away that trauma. Yeah, so we do serve families a very large portion of them in that way because we don't always have photographers that are available.
Yeah.
We do have nurses that we train as well to take photos.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was kind of one of the wonderful things that we had set up in time for 2020.
Yeah,
We had a
I know. It's like, that is perfect.
yes. Yeah, so we have nurses that also take photos and submit those, and so our digital retouch artists are incredible. And then we also have a chapter in Ireland. They have
Oh,
an awesome crew over there as well.
that is awesome.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just think it's so, yeah, it's sacred. I don't know how to yeah.
it
Those
is.
memories
Yeah.
are so sacred to us as lost parents. And so, I mean, like you mentioned earlier in our other interview that you had 6 pictures
Hmm.
and it was just snapshots, just go just take pictures really fast, and other than that you didn't really have that many other things to help you remember Bennett by. And so I just, yeah, pictures are so important. I always tell people, take
Yeah.
pictures, take as many pictures as you can, because
Yeah.
that
Oh,
makes a
yeah. And
huge
I tell
difference.
families, I'm like, even when I'm gone, keep taking pictures.
Yeah,
Like this is all that you have,
yeah,
right? And keep these are the memories that you have. This is the tangible proof because your memories will fade, but these pictures it's tangible proof that your baby was here.
yeah, that is amazing. I am curious for myself, honestly, but I'm sure others who are listening. What is required if you did want to volunteer with Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep? Because I do feel like at some point in time, whoever may be listening to this may feel like that they are able to
Hmm.
participate and help and be a dispatch person or whatever, like,
Yeah.
or they might have skills in Photoshop. So how does how do they get involved? Is it fairly easy? I'm like, what if somebody doesn't have very good photography skills? I'm just curious about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So for photographer, that one is not tricky, but we do have expectations
Yeah.
because you get one chance at
Yes.
doing this. This is the most important moment. There's no redoing this. So we do require professional level
Hmm.
photography skills. So there's an application. We have you submit 5 images, and those are reviewed by a volunteer application committee,
Mm.
and they score those images. They look at the basic fundamentals of your photography, so lighting, posing, focus, composition, and
Yeah.
attention to detail.
Okay.
So we're making sure that all of those things are perfect,
Yeah.
fine tune. We do always provide another opportunity, like if there's something that we're like, oh, hey, like, do you have any other pictures that can show one way or the other?
Yeah. Okay.
And if one or two things are slightly off, we do offer mentoring with that.
Mm.
If you are just beginning photography, my recommendation is practice, practice,
Mm-hmm.
practice. Pick up your DSLR and watch as many YouTube videos as you can. Like, the resources are out there, they are
Yep.
free. Ask your friends, like, take pictures.
Yeah.
We have so many volunteers who have done that and have the heart. Like I mentioned, Allie was like, "Can I take your pictures?"
Yes, I need all the in my portfolio.
There are always people who will let you take their
Yes.
pictures and let you practice. And there's no rush. Like, we're not going anywhere, so take your time and practice. Use a baby doll. There are plenty of ways to practice, but YouTube is your friend.
Yes.
It's a free resource.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's great.
Yeah, and then dispatchers, there's no requirements on that. We provide training for all of our roles anyways. So dispatchers, like I said, we provide training for that on how to use our system. Photographers, we provide training on how to use our system, but also like how to talk to families and
Oh, good.
kind of the situations that you can expect, common scenarios, and how to talk through like our consent form that we use, and some posing type of stuff that we recommend doing, and just expectations,
Yeah.
that kind of
Okay.
thing. Yeah. And then for our digital retouch artists, that you have to be proficient in Photoshop.
Right.
um, that one is we do some hands-on training with that. So when you apply, we send you submission images. You retouch those. We evaluate where you're at from there.
Gotcha.
We do have an expectation on where you need to be to start. If you're not where you need to be to start, we do send you feedback so you know where you're
Fair.
at and what to practice on. And then if you are where we need you to be to start, then you work with an onboarding instructor. Sorry, I
Gotcha.
might like you can cut this out. You work with an onboarding instructor, and you will do your first couple of sessions like with them, and they
Yeah.
will review all of your edits.
That is great. And you guys seriously, like I can think of all of the videos like that we've done, and people have sent pictures from Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep, and they are gorgeous. Just gorgeous. Those babies just look like they're sleeping and are
Yeah.
so beautiful. And I think that's so cool. That is good to know. Put it in your pocket if you are in a position that you can do that, and apply if you'd like, because I think it's really an amazing service that is just so wonderful. So, Melanie, thank you so much for being here with us today. I am wondering if there's any last bit of advice or anything you'd like to say about Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep that we may have missed, because I really just want to make sure people know that there is this service. I did not know that you could request to have retouching even later with your own pictures. So that was a revelation for me. So is there anything else that we may have missed that a lot of people maybe don't know about your organization?
No, that's the biggest one. Yeah,
Okay.
there's no timeline on that. So
Yeah.
if you ever feel called to do that, you're welcome to submit those images for retouching. We're always looking for volunteers nationwide, and yeah.
That is amazing. Well, Melanie, thank you so much again. Thank you for the time and for giving us a lot of information on how we can maybe pay it forward.
Yeah, thank you.